The story begins in a cave where a group of goblins is excited because their chief has just died. One goblin grabs the dead chief's weapon and declares himself the new chief. Another goblin near the body disagrees and angrily claims the title for himself. They start fighting, and the other goblins gather around to watch the show. Among the crowd, one goblin remembers that the late chief left some untouched prey. He suggests to a nearby goblin that they should go take it. However, they also recall that a goblin is guarding the prey and is about to return. Just then, a goblin enters the cave, unlike the others. This goblin is covered in a torn, dirty cloak. As he walks past the crowd, the other goblins whisper that he's disgusting for dressing like a human. They murmur that he knows where the prey is and plan to take it from him. The goblins start to follow him menacingly. One of them suggests waiting a bit longer because some tough goblins had already gone to find the prey. They plan to let those goblins start fighting before they try to take the prey for themselves. The cloaked goblin hears their plans but is suddenly distracted by a scream. He rushes toward the voice and finds some goblins attacking a girl. She is crying and pleading, saying she doesn't want to give birth to goblin children. We see a pink-haired girl with torn clothes, crying as goblins menace her, trying to assault her. She tearfully pleads with a cloaked goblin to save her. The cloaked goblin tells his fellow goblins to let her go, but they refuse, claiming that with the chief dead, she belongs to them now. They threaten to kill the cloaked goblin if he tries to take their prey. The goblins, eyes glowing red with rage, rush to attack him. They tear at his clothes, but the cloaked goblin refuses to die at the hands of these low-level goblins. Determined to survive, he fights back, killing one of them. The other goblins, shocked by the death of their comrade and seeing the cloaked goblin armed with a weapon, begin to fear for their lives. The cloaked goblin points his stone knife at them and warns that they will die too if they don't leave. Terrified, the remaining goblins flee, abandoning the girl. The cloaked goblin pants heavily, exhausted. The girl approaches him, asking if he's okay and thanking him for saving her once again. She tells him he is different from other goblins, as he has always protected her without causing harm. "Please don't die," she says softly. The goblin began to think deeply, and suddenly, a system appeared before his eyes. He felt different, realizing he wasn't just an ordinary goblin, he used to be a human. A few days earlier, the goblin boss and others were mating with a girl right next to him. He sat there, looking at his system, and remembered how he never expected this. Instead of meeting God after being hit by a truck, he was transported to another world with a system. Although he had a system, it hadn't fully activated yet. He could only see some stats, but other functions weren't available. During these past few days, he hadn't been idle. A pink-haired woman had told him some things about this world. He learned that this world, created by gods, was full of powerful monsters. Humans had carved out their place on this continent with their strength. However, as a goblin, he was the weakest and filthiest monster in this world. Even among goblins, he was very weak and could be easily killed. The system showed his stats, introducing us to our protagonist, Lin Tian. He was just level 5, with only 20 GP, a strength of 5, and a defense of 5. His overall combat ability was just 30. He looked at the girl and thought about how he could get stronger. In this world, goblins could become stronger through constant mating and reproduction. But they had no females, so they had to mate with other female creatures. That's why they constantly plundered. However, Lin Tian, who used to be a good human, found this idea really disgusting. The girl with pink hair smiled at Lin Tian, reassuring him not to worry. She explained that after spending these days with him, she understood that he was different and questioned whether he truly wanted to live with the goblins. Lin Tian looked at her but did not respond. She then expressed confidence, suggesting that when the Night Order arrived to rescue her, she would inform them about him. She believed that the Night Order, known for being fair and just, would surely agree to let him live in the village. This made Lin Tian consider that she might be right. Even if his system could not activate, he thought that by holding out until the humans came to rescue them and gaining their protection, He could survive and then figure out how to activate his system. Suddenly, they heard voices approaching. Lin Tian feared the goblins were returning and told the girl to hide. A goblin's footsteps drew near as the girl hid behind a rock and Lin Tian guarded her. The goblin, appearing like a filthy beast seeking to mate with her and becoming stronger to avoid being killed, rushed towards the girl. Lin Tian noticed the arrival of humans and swiftly attacked the goblin's neck with his knife. He informed the girl that the humans were there to rescue her. Excited and happy, she ran off, exclaiming that it must be the Holy Knight Order and urging Lin Tian to follow her. As they journeyed, they witnessed a human wielding a powerful sword Kai attack, slaying goblins nearby. The human, named Loader according to Lin Tian's system, was a level 25 swordsman with a combat power of 400. Lin Tian marveled at Loader's impressive stats, the highest he had seen since arriving in this world, doubting if Loader was truly human. When a girl, seeking safety, rushed towards Loader, Lin Tian observed how effortlessly Loader dispatched the goblins. Suddenly, sensing danger, Lin Tian leaped to shield the girl from Loader's sword aimed at her. As they fell to the ground, Lin Tian wondered why rescuers would attack, perhaps mistaking the girl for a goblin in the dim cave. Enveloped in a blue aura, an enraged Loader accused the girl, Kilia, of being defiled by goblins, implying she might be carrying a goblin's offspring. He scornfully demanded she repent to the Holy Mother for mercy. Kilia defiantly shouted her name, but Loader silenced her, aware of her identity yet condemning her without mercy. Kilia began to cry as she told the commander that despite being captured by the goblins, she hadn't been harmed. She pointed towards Goblin Linshan, explaining that he had protected her during her captivity. Commander Loader, furious, raised his sword, accusing Kilia of spinning unbelievable tales and disrespecting him. Linshan swiftly intervened, urging Kilia to flee and pointing out an escape route. He grabbed a weapon and faced Loader in combat, but just as Loader was about to strike, a beam of light descended, halting his sword midair. A woman, Holy Maiden Ephraia, appeared with her soldiers, shielding Lin Tian with a protective barrier. She questioned the situation, noting Lin Tian's unusual behavior for a goblin. Kilia, desperate for help, crawled towards Ephraia, pleading for assistance. Ephraia took Kilia's arms and presented her to Loader, then turned to Linshan, asking if he could understand her words. Lin Tian realized that Ephraia was the Holy Maiden, the spokesperson of the temple they had discussed. He understood that leaving this place might be his only hope. The goblin, surprisingly able to speak, confirmed Ephraia's identity as the Holy Maiden and revealed he was once human before an accident transformed him into a monster. Lin Tian pleaded to explain everything in exchange for joining Ephraia. Loader remarked that the goblin seemed smarter than others of his kind, a rarity. Ephraia smiled, noting goblins were usually seen as unintelligent creatures incapable of fluent speech, possibly viewing the goblin's ability as a gift from the Holy Mother. The Holy Maiden asked Kilia if the goblin had harmed her, to which Kilia replied he not only spared her but also protected her from other goblins and provided food. Pleased by this, Ephraia decided they would take the goblin back to study it thoroughly before making a decision. Kilia was overjoyed at this prospect. Ephraia asked Lin Tian if he was willing to come with them, and with hope in his eyes, he agreed, seeing this as his chance to prove his innocence rather than face certain death by staying. Ephraia snapped her fingers, dispelling the light that had covered Lin Tian, and they all began their journey back to the village with Kilia and the goblin. The goblin thanked Ephraia for her kindness and promised to repay her properly. Ephraia accepted his gratitude. Suddenly, behind Lin Tian, Loader thrust his sword into Kilia's stomach. Shocked and terrified, Lin Tian witnessed Kilia's death. Ephraia coldly warned Lin Tian that he would owe her greatly when they returned through the gate. A week had passed peacefully in the village until the bell tolled loudly, summoning everyone to gather. The villagers sensed the gravity of the moment as influential figures from the temple assembled them. Tension filled the air as an official stepped forward, addressing the crowd with alarming news. A goblin raid had devastated Bright Town, claiming the lives of 30 villagers through cowardly sneak attacks. Emotions ran high among the villagers, grief and anger palpable in the face of such loss. The temple official seized the moment, praising the temple's swift action in purging the goblins and avenging the villagers. The crowd's grief turned to admiration, though some wondered if the temple was exploiting their emotions for its own gain. Then came Holy Maiden Ephraia, whose presence commanded attention. With a calm yet authoritative voice, she urged the villagers to deepen their faith in the temple, assuring them of its protection. Her words resonated deeply, renewing the villagers' faith and trust. Later that night, at her home, Holy Maiden Ephraia celebrated the successful sermon. She mused cynically about the villagers' newfound devotion, believing them easily manipulated. Her revelry was interrupted by a voice. It was Linchin, the goblin survivor. Despite his battered appearance, filled with rage and pain, he called out to Ephraia, but she dismissed him with a twisted smile, marveling at his resilience and the challenge he posed to the temple's efforts. In this moment, Ephraia realized the true extent of the goblins' tenacity, understanding why their eradication remained elusive to the temple. But now that Linchin had regained consciousness, Ephraia was eager to see how poison would affect goblins this time. This routine frustrated Linchin. It wasn't research, but Ephraya's sadistic satisfaction. Angered, he lashed out at Ephraia, accusing her of deceit and Kelia's death. He questioned the Holy Order's justice and Ephraya's pride in it, likening their methods to those of the despised goblins. Ephraia swiftly silenced him, forcefully gagging him with a stick. She sneered at Linchin, calling him a lustful goblin unworthy of questioning human justice. She accused Kelia of betrayal for sympathizing with him, justifying her death as loyalty to humanity. To Ephraia, goblins were vermin, and Linchin should be grateful for her attention. The torture continued relentlessly. Linchin endured excruciating agony, questioning his fate and blaming himself for trusting in human compassion. Ephraia and Loder tortured him sadistically, enjoying his suffering until his eventual demise. Linchin's last regret was his naive trust in humans. If he could live again, he vowed to never trust them and harbored vengeful thoughts as consciousness faded. After waking up in a mysterious dimension where stars stretched across the sky for miles, Linchin checked his body and found it unharmed, though he sensed something peculiar, caught between life and death. Wondering about this unfamiliar place, he soon got answers when a system window appeared, announcing the activation of the Goblin Life Simulation System. It revealed the shocking truth. He was dead, his soul marked by the agony endured in his past life. The system offered him a chance to restart, promising a new life, albeit as the lowliest creature, a goblin. Linchin hesitated at the prospect of being reborn as a despised goblin, but sought clarification from the system. It explained that declining meant his soul would fade into oblivion, while accepting would send him back a week with his memories intact. The thought of vengeance against those who had wronged him and the opportunity to change his fate fueled his resolve. With a determined smile, Linchin chose to accept, feeling a surge of life force initiate the start of Goblin Life 2.0. But this time, there was something different in Linchin's eyes, a glint of pure revenge driving him. Just when he thought things couldn't get any better, the system surprised him again. This was now Goblin Life 2.0, and it seemed inclined to give him a better chance at survival. The system had strengthened him slightly, enough to make him smirk. It wasn't much, but he wasn't complaining. It was better than nothing. Back in his previous body, Linchin prepared to move, but the system popped up with another warning. Despite being reborn, the danger wasn't over. The human holy order was closing in, and if he died again, the system couldn't revive him. This didn't surprise him. It was expected after being reincarnated once. Now on high alert, Linchin asked the system what it could do. It explained it was called the Goblin Life Simulation System. With it, he could simulate his life to foresee future events. Every choice he made in these simulations would lead to different outcomes. Each simulation lasted 24 hours, after which he would earn points exchangeable for items. This revelation made him grin. The system was incredibly powerful. It would be foolish not to use it to its fullest potential. Without hesitation, he started a life simulation. In the depths of the Goblin cave, the system alerted him to the current danger. Linshin, a goblin seeking escape, had stumbled upon the cave's discovery by the Holy Knight Loader. To evade Loader and his men, Linshin faced a critical choice. His first option was to warn his fellow goblins and join forces against Loader, promising a reward of 10 points. Alternatively, he could abandon them and escape alone for 5 points. The third option was to hide and hope Loader wouldn't find him, resulting in 0 points. Realizing the goblins stood no chance against Loader alone, Linshin decided to simulate his options. He chose the escape route, knowing it offered the highest score. By gaining points, he could exchange them for a weapon that might give him an edge. Leading the goblins into battle proved futile. Loader's strength was overwhelming, and they were easily defeated. Despite their loss, Linshin earned the points he needed. Rushing to the exchange shop, he found an array of weapons, from daggers to swords. Unfortunately, his points fell short for a powerful gun. Yet, there was one weapon within his reach, a 10-point elven swift blade. Crafted by elves, this dagger granted a 10% speed boost and 15 strength increase. Fragile but incredibly sharp, it promised lethal precision. Without hesitation, Linshin purchased the blade. As it materialized in his hand, he felt a significant boost in his stats. It was far superior to any goblin-made weapon. With its potential for a decisive strike, Linshin knew it could be a game-changer in his quest for survival. Linshin realized he hadn't seen Kelia anywhere, so he asked the system where she had gone. The system's answer surprised him. Due to the host's rebirth, timelines had shifted, and in this new timeline, Kelia hadn't been captured by goblins. Instead, she lived happily in the village. This unexpected turn of events filled him with gratitude, feeling as though he had fulfilled his promise to Kelia after all. With his mind clear, Linshin focused on his next goal, revenge. But first, he needed to escape and survive. He made his way swiftly and silently through the cave, aiming for the narrowest passage, where the guards would be weakest. As he approached the exit, he overheard knights of the Holy Order outside, chatting casually. Listening carefully, Linshin learned that these knights were not only hunting goblins, but were under orders to kill any girls who attempted to escape, to prevent chaos from reaching the village. This confirmed Linshin's belief that the Holy Order was corrupt, willing to kill innocents to maintain their rule. Determined to fight back, Linshin devised a plan. He mimicked a distressed woman's voice, luring one of the knights close. Expecting an easy reward for capturing a straggler, the knight approached cautiously. However, instead of finding a woman in distress, he met Linshin's dagger, which swiftly ended his life. Confident now in his ability to take revenge, Linshin prepared himself for the next phase of his plan.